We have a special guest today, Joseph Woodbury. Joseph is the founder and CEO of neighbor.com. It's a marketplace disrupting the $500 billion self storage industry, which is pretty awesome. I can't wait to dive in. So, Joseph, man, thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Neighbor is a very interesting concept, and I brought you guys on because I am intrigued by it. I believe our listeners will be intrigued by it, and I believe it'll be able to be a tool to help with passive income for folks who listen to this show and may have never heard of you guys before. So, give us the high level view. What is neighbor.com? How did you come up with it? Like, I love the origin story. So, take it back as far as you want to, and then bring it up to today.
Sure, yeah. So at the high level, Neighbor is a peer-to-peer storage marketplace. We let people take space that they already have, whether that's residential with like a garage or a basement or a shed or a driveway, and rent that out to people who need storage. So it could be your neighbor that needs to store a boat, comes and stores it on the side of your home, or a camper trailer, or boxes of or furniture in your garage, etc. We also work with small businesses that have excess space that in their small business or excess parking the city made them build. They'll monetize that on our platform. We came up with it really by having the need. It was actually my co-founder Preston that came up with the idea, and he and his wife had just gotten married. They about a week after they got married, they flew down to South America for to work for a humanitarian org, and of course, they needed storage while they were going to be down there. And he looked into getting a storage unit, kind of had the same experience everyone does, where, there was no vacancies. So you're just going to have to drive a city over just to find one with empty space. And they were going to charge him a lot of money. I think storage is like the single largest subscription payment that Americans make. And
Wow.
so he was like, "There's no way I'm doing this. This is crazy." He called around to some friends and found one that was willing to let him store in his garage. Fast forward 4 months later, he goes to pick his items up and he's just thinking to himself, "This was such a better experience. I saved a lot of money. I felt a lot safer with my items in a nice, clean garage than in one of those storage units on the edge of town. There's got to be empty space in every neighborhood in the country. Why hasn't someone built a way to access that or find that, a marketplace, a directory of some kind?" So we started building it, and turns out other people had similar idea, and even people had been doing this before. We just created a platform to make it trustworthy and easy and streamline it.
Wow, genius. And it's interesting to hear how it came about because when you hear a lot of stories of businesses, especially when they're providing a platform or a service, I feel as though a lot of them are built out of a personal need. You come across that issue to where it's like, I really need this. It doesn't exist. And most people in life, 99% of people, just move on with their day. But the people who disrupt industries and become successful for themselves while helping millions stop and say, well, what if I created that need? And to watch you guys have been able to do that over the last 7 years is pretty fantastic. And I want to unpack all of that. But before I do that, what is your background, Preston's background before this ever started? What were you guys doing?
I was headed off to do boring professional services. Never thought I'd start a company. When I was in school, I worked for an investment banking company. Thought I'd go down that route. Then I worked for a private equity fund, and then finally landed on management consulting, which I really enjoyed. Worked for Bain and Company, and thought, that's the dream job, being able to consult these big companies and on strategic decisions. But then Preston told me about this idea. He similarly was headed off into professional services. So was we actually have a third co-founder, Colton. He was headed on a similar path, just as boring as it can get. And none of us had any plans to start a company. But when Preston had this need and told us about his idea, all three of us were like, "Why has no one done this before?" Like, I thought all the good ideas were taken,
Yeah.
with Airbnb attacking hospitality and Uber attacking transportation. I just didn't know things like this were left, and it was a lot of fun kicking it off. We still thought we'd go, to our full-time jobs, but We all ended up calling our full-time jobs and telling them we weren't going to show up, and here we are today. And I think we're the first storage provider to, in the world to operate in all 50 states. So it's been a long ride.
Wow. Wow, 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 and an overnight success, right? Of course. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
right.
that's what everybody likes to say. From a business standpoint, are you guys like the traditional there's a visionary and some integrators, like did y'all's personalities come together like perfectly to be able to say, "Hey, this person has this strength set, I have this strength set, Colton has this strength set," and it all just blended to make this fantastic concoction?
Yeah, yes. In some ways, we have differentiated skill sets. In some ways, we're very similar. So as I mentioned, we're all headed off in the same direction, all kind of going to some sort of consulting. One of us was going into healthcare consulting. One of us was going into management consulting. Um, and so very similar skill set there, very analytical, but in many ways different as well. My co-founder Preston, he had a background in marketing. He'd run a marketing firm on the side while he was in college, so he was kind of a clear fit to lead marketing for us in the early days. My co-founder Colton, he'd been building websites since he was in junior high. Uh, got paid for uh, got paid for his website in junior high. Operated like the third most popular backpacking website in the country through college, and got paid affiliate money on the side to do that. So he was a clear fit to help spearhead the build out of the first platform and kind of the operations side. As I mentioned, I'd worked a little bit on the investor side, and so had some experience working with investors and could help lead out our efforts to bring in investor capital and the legal side of it. So we had differentiated skill sets, but not as much as many startups where they go very purposefully say,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to get a technical co-founder, we're going to get a go-to-market co-founder. um, we we are kind of carbon copies of each other.
That's really interesting. That's and y'all were just 3 buddies, I'm guessing? Just 3
Yeah.
friends who came together and said, "Let's do this thing?"
Yeah, Preston and I, we'd gone to school together, and his major was my minor. Took a lot of classes together, so knew each other quite well. And then Preston and Colton, they best friends. They had lived down in Paraguay together multiple times. First for an LDS mission down there, and then they went back to work for a humanitarian startup that helped small businesses in Paraguay start up. So they knew each other quite well. So yeah, a lot of friendships.
That's really cool, and then to see that you guys have grown this. What were the early days like? So you have this idea, it hits Preston when him and his wife are going out of town, and he comes back, somehow convinces you other 2 to just go in with him. Had to be the greatest sales pitch of all time, you know? And
That's
whenever you can
right.
convince your 2 buddies to do something with you, and now you guys set off on this journey. What do those first couple years look like? Because a lot of people don't make it, past the 2 to 5 year mark.
Yeah, so the first 6 months that we started this, we didn't have any capital, any fundraising whatsoever. We were just kind of bootstrapping it. We competed in some business competitions. We're able to win 5 grand there, here, 5 grand there. We just used it all to do more marketing testing, and figure out people's desire to use something like this. But then about 6 months in, we were able to raise a seed round from a venture capital firm based here out of Utah, largest venture firm in Utah. And once we had that, we were finally able to invest in adding additional employees beyond ourselves. We really focused for the first year or so on product. So we hired software engineers. We didn't really spend a ton of money on marketing. We kind of let users come to us, and we just
Mm,
iterate. What do users want? And it was only when we had really a high NPS scores, when users were rating us very well. It was only then that we expanded outside of Utah. So we really just stuck here in Utah for the first year and a half, and it paid off because when we launched our first market outside of Utah, which was Los Angeles, we were able to get as many hosts in the first 7 weeks in Los Angeles as we'd gotten in the first year and a half in Utah. So focusing on making it a perfect product for users before trying to expand it paid off a ton for us when we did start to expand.
Was that tough waiting a year? Like a year's a long time. And I'm
Yeah.
guessing you guys are chomping at the bit because you're like, bro, when we launch, we could be bringing in more revenue now. Like that's in the back of your mind,
Right.
but you don't want to set yourself up for long term failure. So I mean, the discipline that goes with that, I can't imagine it was easy.
Yeah, and we were clueless, right? We're all first time founders, and every day just coming in, okay, what have other companies done that makes them successful? What are we going to do? Reading everything we can and trying things, and it's like, oh, that worked for them, doesn't work for us. Let's try something new. And like I can't emphasize enough the iteration process, where of all the ideas that we thought were home runs, 30% of them end up being
Wow.
home runs. So you just got to try a bunch of them. It's like being a professional baseball player. You bat 300, you're doing a great job.
Yep. That's a really good analogy there. The product from my standpoint, the products that we offer to our folks, which are not like a platform like you're doing, but just I think it applies to any product, or at least most out there. They change so much, and they a lot of times they don't end up being exactly what you think, and it's very interesting. And I personally didn't wait as long to let a smaller amount of people tell me so I could make it better before launching it to more folks. I just, jumped off the cliff and figured out how to survive on the way down. So I think the way you guys did it is a lot more efficient. And then you could, once you had that dialed in, now it's just, hey, how do we dial in marketing? So you were smart, focus on one thing at a time. But it's just interesting from an entrepreneurial standpoint that the product iteration phase it just never ends up being what your vision sets out for it to be. Like the whole premise theme of what you're trying to accomplish happens, but the features that get you there, it's very cool, and it can be tough because you're over here personally saying, well, I want it to do this. But if you'll just listen to what your customers are telling you, they'll make the product better for you. But you can spend a ton of money trying to develop this, develop that without listening to them, or you can just slow down like you guys did and say, what are they saying? Let's implement it, test it. Great. Sticks. What are these next people saying? And to see you guys do that so efficiently before you launched with such great restraint, to be able to do that for a year, which I know in the grand scheme of things, a year is not a long time, but when you're starting a new business and you're mitigating revenue off of trying to dial in a product, that's pretty darn awesome. So kudos to you guys. What did that evolution process of the product look like? Like what it started out as, and then compared to what it is today?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go way back, it started very, very basic. We literally stood up a WordPress website where it was a landing page attached to a Google form where you could sign up to be a host or renter, and then we would call the renter and say, "Hey, what are you looking to store?" And then we call the host and say, "Hey, they're looking to store this. You okay with that? What do you want to charge?" And we call the renter back. "Oh, they want to charge this. You okay? Okay, what day do you want to move in?" We'd get them connected, and then we'd have the renter pay us through Venmo, and we'd pay out the host through Venmo. And it was very scrappy, and eventually we got shut down on Venmo because you're not supposed to use it for business transactions. I think my co-founder is still locked out of Venmo today. So so naturally, then you have to build payments. So then we integrated a large payment processor. Eventually, we built in functionality for hosts and renters to find each other on the map and being able to search each other out. And then over the last 5 6 years, it's just gotten better and better and better. I mean, it's a fully self-serve product, has been for years and years. As a renter, it's about the easiest website you could possibly get on to find storage around you. We let you search, we let you see all the features, we let you book, we let you buy property protection plans. We're the only storage company in the country that offers up to $50,000 in property protection to their renters. For the hosts, we basically have fully built out suite of tools for you to run your business. That's one of the cool things about a marketplace is it's not actually us that's selling product. We're not crafting some product to sell and then selling it. The hosts, most of the money we collect as a platform does not go to us. It goes to our hosts. Our hosts are earning tens of thousands of dollars a year on our platform. It's really amazing money, but they don't want to set up They don't want to have to like think about setting up a business and all the tools to distribute that and to keep themselves safe and to be able to communicate. And so we've just set that all for them. You can publish a listing in about 10 minutes. We'll ask you a bunch of questions. Once you're published, we'll get you a reservation. We give you all the tools to approve that reservation, to communicate with your renter. You've got $1 million guarantee. We make sure all payments happen every month. So it's just kind of seamless to where you as a host can focus on providing the space and getting money deposited into your bank account each month so that it's like truly passive income.
Hey guys, when you're just starting out as a real estate investor, finding deals is the most important thing you can do. But unfortunately, it can also be your biggest hurdle. And let me tell you, it gets even harder when your business grows and you don't have a lot of time to look for properties and evaluate deals like you did on the front end. That's why you need to work with New Western. New Western has properties ready for rehab on their marketplace today. That means you skip the hours of research, driving neighborhoods, or calling agents. And instead, you get to start with a ready-made property. You can rehab and flip it, or rehab it and burr it and hold it as a rental. So why is New Western good at what they do? Well, they buy and sell a property every 13 minutes. They work exclusively with investors and value-add properties, and that's all they do. They're licensed agents, they have a network of lenders, and they'll help you grow your business. So if you're ready to jumpstart your next project, visit newwestern.com, join their marketplace, and access the largest private source of rehab properties in the nation. That's powerful. Yeah, having the tools in place, because I believe that's what holds most people back is, maybe they have an idea, they want to do something, but all the nuances that come with it make it very hard for the average person to operate a business like that. But you guys are saying, hey, we've already taken care of that. They literally
Right.
come list this property. We'll do all the boring, detailed, crappy stuff. And you just make money by renting out your place. Or from the other side of the aisle, hey, you got a place to store your spot without having to go through a bunch of headaches. And that is truly amazing what you guys have put together. So I focus a lot on real estate in my brand, but one of my secret true passions is business. And so I probably listen to more business podcasts, read more business books than anything because I really love it. And so whenever I've heard folks talk about a service like yours, where you've got a provider, a host, and a customer, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg, right? You can't get too heavy with the providers and you can't get too heavy with the people who are interested in using the provider services. And so, how do you guys balance that? And you probably got a good formula now, but how did you figure that out? Like, hey, we only want a certain number of providers compared to how many people are actually using this platform. Has that been something you guys have had to battle throughout the years?
Absolutely. Your number one and number two jobs as a marketplace are number one. We don't sell space. We sell trust, right? And so that's job number one is to provide the most trustworthy, safe platform. That's what marketplaces are. Uber's not selling you a taxi ride. What they're selling you is you feel safe getting into the car with whoever's coming to pick you up. Same with Airbnb. If you think about, isn't it pretty crazy that we even use Airbnb? You're literally
Nuts.
going into someone's home and sleeping there, or getting into some random stranger's car and driving with them. We're super grateful to them because they paved the way. No one even thinks twice about taking their, boat and storing it on the side of someone's house or taking their boxes in a garage. It's just such a lower barrier than like getting in a car. So marketplaces, they provide trust. That's job number one. Job number two is what we refer to internally as liquidity, which is what you described. You have to have the right ratio of renters to hosts on the platform. And for us, that means getting as much supply as possible because the self storage industry is crazy undersupplied. It's at a 95% occupancy. It's the highest occupancy rate of any real estate asset class. The industry spends about $5 billion a year just on new construction, and that's not enough. They can't bring the occupancy down. So it's got way more. There's way more renters out there than there are places to put their items. We see that on our platform as well. We have millions and millions of renters come to our website every year, and a lot of which we may just not have space in their city, and we're the largest. We have space in more places than any other storage company in the world.
Wow.
We have space in almost every city in the United States of America, and still we can't keep up with all the demand. So for us, making that balance means just getting as many people as possible to sign up their space so that we can start earning them money.
Wow. I think you'd probably rather have that problem though. I mean, you don't want you want it
Yeah,
to flow perfectly, but if anything, you want the demand there and figure out the
sure.
supply on the back end. Wow, that's
Yep,
crazy, man. Crazy, crazy statistics. So you mentioned earlier that you had experience in raising capital. And so I would imagine you had a hand in raising capital for neighbor.com.
yep,
And I'm looking at these list of folks, and we're talking about you raise money from the creators of Airbnb, Uber, StockX, DoorDash. So you've been able to pull some capital from some pretty high profile people. What's that been like? How'd you get through those doors? And how has that capital helped change your guys' business today?
two things. One, we've again just tried to focus on crafting something that users like, and telling that story and having the brand vision. Our vision is far beyond just self storage. That's where we're starting, but we think our most powerful asset at this point is we've now got literal neighbors opening up their space to each other in almost every city in the country. That's a big powerful network,
Yeah,
and we think there's a powerful opportunity for those neighbors to do additional things for each other, even outside of storage. We're very focused on storage right now because, as you mentioned, it's a $500 billion industry. We'll be playing here for a long time, expanding, expanding, expanding. But just like Amazon started with books and became the world's largest bookstore and then expanded, we think our network can do things like that. And that's a vision that investors can buy into and believe in. The second thing is we've had a lot of people help us out on the way. We've just been amazed at individuals who have had successful careers that we don't even know, their willingness to help us out just because we reach out or just because we have someone make an introduction. And a lot of those people we've brought in as investors have come through introductions from people in our network where we asked them if they'd be willing to make an introduction. And so, and then the third piece that you come to think of it is like there's some luck as well. We've been lucky to cross paths with some of the right people at the right times, and they've been excited about what we're building, and so we're able to bring them in, and they can be great advisors to the company.
I love that. And Mark Cuban made it. I saw somebody post that he said the other day. He's like, any billionaire who tells you that they could do it again, he's like, they're lying. He's like, they're full of crap.
Yeah.
Because he said there's so many things that happen at the right time. You meet the right person at the right time. You're in the right marketplace at the right time. You come up with the right idea at the right time. You meet the right people for your team at the right time. And he was just like, bro, could they be successful? Sure. He's like, but to say they would be billionaires and hit the jackpot again, no way. And I think a lot of that has to do what he was saying, among other things, but is networking. And you mentioned that. It's like, man, people have been so nice to you. You've reached out and they've opened doors and made introductions, and networking is something I'm a believer in, no matter what industry you're in, whether you're just doing tech startup, whether you're doing real estate, whether whatever, you can name it. And so many people get, I think, stifled by it. They use an excuse. I'm, an introvert, or I don't know how to network, or, how's talking to people going to help me? And I'm like, guys, you have to understand that one conversation with the right person can change the entire trajectory of your life. And there's not, you can get into the details of how to network. Sure. Could somebody teach a course on how to do that? Absolutely. But at the highest level, just start making connections with people who are where you want to be. Claw your way into those rooms. Don't make it more complicated. Is that what you guys have seen on your end that's allowed you to be able to break into some of these places and give you those connections that have helped scale your business?
Yeah, and that resonates with me. I'd say for me personally, I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people who's not a networker. That you know is gonna if something's labeled as a networking event, I'm gonna avoid it at all costs. But there are other ways to do it. You know, you can build one-on-one relationships that are more personal, and you can ask people that you're interested to. You can ask someone that you know if they'd be willing to introduce you to someone, and that's just as powerful. And so even the introverts can do it. To plus one what you said, uh, you just got to do it in the way that's comfortable for you, but you can't neglect it. In order to get where you want to go, you have to be willing to ask for help, because every business is going to need others to help contribute to their success.
Spot on. All right, guys, you heard it from Joseph as well. You didn't just hear it from me. You have to get out there and put yourself in front of people that can help you elevate. Stop making excuses. Get it done because it'll change your life. Joseph, you guys are in 50 states. You got more storage options than any other storage company in the world. You host people who are earning tens of thousands of dollars annually. There really is, and I truly mean this, there's no reason that anybody listening to this shouldn't download your app and at least start as a host. And then when they need to store stuff, they have that opportunity to do that themselves. So, how do they go about that? What's that process look like?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we've tried to make it as easy as possible. When if you've got space, whether it's a real estate investment property, you know, we'll get real estate investors that own 10 rental properties. Um, Maybe they're earning $2,500 a month in rent, and their mortgage is 2,200, so they're earning $300 net. They love neighbor because oftentimes we can double their net earnings on a rental property. So they'll do that across 10 properties,
Wow.
and it's a significant increase to their return. Down to, we'll have uh, not too far from where we're located here, we have a middle school teacher who has a large space next to her home, and is earning a middle school teacher salary and earns an additional $10,000 a year on our platform, because
Wow.
she rents out 10 spots on this lot next to her property for a boat and RV storage. um, so it's as simple as going through this questionnaire. We're going to ask you where the space is located. We're going to ask you how large is the space, how many spots do you have on the space, what it can store. Is it interior? Can it store items, or is it exterior to store vehicles? We're going to ask you, what amenities does it have? Does it have is it a secure area? Is it pet free? Is it climate controlled? Does it have security cameras? Not every space will have those items. They just make your space more attractive. So those are all uh, optional items to check to show that your space is more attractive than others. And then you'll need to set a price, and you can set whatever price you'd like as a host for your space. But of course, we'll provide your recommended price. We have a ton of data from all across the country. At our size and scale, we now have a pretty good idea what is going to get you rented. And so you can either set a price, or sign up for what we call smart pricing, where we'll just manage your prices for you. And then we'll ID verify you. It's important to us that all of our hosts are ID verified, and then you'll be able to publish your listing. So it's as simple as that. Takes 10 to 15 minutes max. And then our job is to get you a renter as fast as possible. And you'll be able to, as a host, we require renters to submit a list of everything that they'll be storing, and an expected, just a general idea of the duration that they'd like to store. And then you as a host get to see that information and approve or deny that request.
Easy peasy, man. Easy. I love it. There's no reason that we all shouldn't have this app if we have space. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever. And it's pretty cool because you guys are, quote unquote, disrupting an industry. I don't know if you like to use that word, but you're bringing new technology into an industry that hasn't had this before. And I would guess that we're on the up and up. And so for users, you see the big platforms that you hear of today, the Uber, the Airbnb, whatever. Um, you know, be in early. You want to get in on early on something? Here's your opportunity right here, because this is a huge need across the country and it solves a huge problem. And I cannot wait to see neighbor.com grow, and tell all my friends that I got to interview Joseph when, he's on the cover of Forbes and all these other things. So I'll be flaunting this episode. But Joseph, man, I really appreciate you coming on today. And where can the listeners find you, find more information? Where do you want to send folks to?
So I've also tried to make that as easy as possible. Our website is just neighbor.com. So very simple there. You can visit us there. We're also on the App Store. We're the #1 ranked self-storage app. So you can search anything you want: self-storage, boat storage, RV storage. We're going to show up #1, or you can just punch in neighbor. We'll show up #1. And then, of course, you can, if you just want to stay updated, if you're not a user yet and you just want to follow our progress, you can follow us on social, like LinkedIn or Twitter or anywhere you are. And yeah, come join us. We're got a nationwide community. It's a lot of fun.
Love it. We'll put the links down to all the neighbors' socials and the website down below. That way, you listeners can go follow them as well as get your place set up on their website. But Joseph, I want to thank you again. This was unbelievable. Loved hanging out with you. Love your guys' story, and excited to see you continue to scale.
Yeah, thanks, Jaron.